Jotaro had time stopped from the beginning of the series. At least that's one theory that I thought about myself, and when I looked it up, apparently other people had this same theory as well. So as we all know, Jotaro was able to stop time during his final fight with Dio, but some people think he was able to do so subconsciously prior to that. There are a few instances that might actually prove this, so let's get into those. And I also wouldn't even really rule this out completely, in all honesty, because we've seen stands act on their own independent of the user at times, for example Gold Experience Requiem. But the first piece of evidence I saw people discussing was when Jotaro shot himself in the head point blank with that gun in the prison cell. In all honesty, I don't see this really as like a strong piece of evidence because of the fact that Star Platinum is ridiculously fast. I don't think it needs to stop time just to catch a bullet, at least in this part. We're not talking about part 6, that's a completely different story. And I also saw someone else in the comments saying that Star Platinum couldn't have caught the bullet because he was holding the gun directly against his head. That just doesn't really seem true, at least in the anime. I could be wrong if it's different in the manga, but at least in the anime it doesn't seem like it's literally touching his head. And on top of that, he was also capable of catching bullets during his fight with Dio. It's not something that we've seen not done before, it's something that is possible, we've seen it before. And I'm also sure if he stopped time to catch the bullets during his fight with Dio, Dio would have noticed. But what I do think is cool is the fact that Dio initially found out his time stop ability by having someone shoot bullets at him. And then that's how he kind of practiced it and found out that the world was able to stop time. And then it's also just kind of funny that that was one of the first scenes we saw Jotaro do, was shooting bullets at himself to prove that his stand was able to stop it. I really wouldn't be surprised or put it past Araki if this was one of those many parallels that he has in JoJo's, because let's face it, this series is full of parallels and just it referencing itself. But just a cool piece of evidence to kind of think about. Again, I don't really think it's the strongest piece, but let's get into the next one. The next scene that we have is his fight with Darby the Gambler. One of the best scenes in JoJo's, by the way. And this is the scene that actually made me initially think of this theory because of the fact that he just appeared to have a cigarette and a drink out of nowhere, and you see Star Platinum kind of bring it to him, I believe, but only like briefly. It doesn't show the entire process of that happening. And it would kind of make a little bit of sense if Star Platinum was to stop time to bring Jotaro's desires to him. That's kind of a common theme that we see in stands is, you know, having your strongest desire be brought to you. Kind of similar to how Star Platinum was bringing items to him in prison that he wanted, although I don't think Star Platinum was stopping time to do that. That's kind of just the difference between range and effective range. Star Platinum can go pretty far, it's just not going to be as effective past its range, which is why I was able to bring those items to Jotaro in his prison cell. Next up, we have his fight with Endul, or the blind guy, however you pronounce it. Don't cook me. I've actually seen a decent amount of people bring this one up because of the fact that he was so close to getting hit, and on top of that, he also just kind of appeared behind him. We know he threw Iggy kind of as a distraction, but that distance was still kind of crazy between the two. So to kind of close that distance and appear behind him and also be able to dodge his attack by literally a hair is kind of insane. People were saying that he just shifted very, very briefly, stopping time for like a fraction of a second to avoid it. And I really wouldn't rule this out completely. I do think this is somewhat plausible. On top of that, when I was rewatching this scene in the anime, I did notice that they kind of put an effect on the screen when Star Platinum dodged that attack. It could just be the animators choosing to do that. It could be intentional foreshadowing. Again, that's kind of up to you to interpret. Let me know what you think in the comments though. But I'm gonna slow it down so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I swear I saw like kind of a visual effect on this scene right here. Maybe I'm crazy, call me crazy all you want, but it looks pretty similar to when they stop time. That, like, I guess you could call it a ripple effect, visual effect. I'm really not too sure what to call it, but let me know what you think. Another small one that I also thought of that I didn't really see anyone else bring about is when he had his fight with Wheel of Fortune, that barrel-built dude in the car, and he ended up getting lit on fire. You see him kind of just drop down, and then he pretty much burrows himself underground and comes up, you know, unscathed. You're telling me that no one saw this giant spirit or heard it punching and fisting rocks to get underground? I mean, even when he was punching the High Priestess, I believe was the name of the stand with the teeth that were harder than diamonds, the rest of the gang heard that, and they even started talking about it, but I guess they didn't hear or see when he was punching the ground to get underneath. I'm just saying, this one could be another possibility. And last but most certainly not least is during his last fight with Dio at the end when we saw him just appear in the manhole. I thought this one was pretty funny, and Araki could have just been feeling silly goofy here and just wanted to make that happen. And I saw some people say he just went under another manhole and ran, and then appeared out of that one. Some people say he ran under it, stopped time, launched himself with his stand, like how they were bouncing off walls and buildings to launch themselves around. and got to the other manhole, I really wouldn't rule this one out either. I mean, it makes sense because he already knew that he could stop time at this point, or at least move and stop time. And it could also just be a combination of all of these. He could have just went under the other manhole, stopped time, launched himself like he was doing when they were chasing each other through the town, and then met him at the other manhole. And you might say, well, why didn't Dio notice it? Dio was on the brink of, like, death. I mean, his skull just got bashed in. He couldn't even walk. His legs were not working. This man was down horrendous. So I really wouldn't put it past him to not really be able to notice that. But it's just another thing to possibly consider. But with all that being said, that's pretty much it for this video. Let me know if you think this theory has any merit to it. If you think that there's any other scenes that might actually prove this or disprove it, feel free to let me know in the comments. It's just a fun little theory to explore. If there's any other theories you'd like for me to explore, please let me know in the comments. I'm more than welcome to explore any JoJo theory. And I appreciate it if you made it this far into the video. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Only like 0.5% of you guys are subscribed, so let's change that together and subscribe. Recruiting all JoJo fans. I appreciate you. Take care, you guys.